This is Strategic Living. Transcript for Session 3. Discovering New Potential, SLP, Enhancing Your Privacy and Security. The second element. This comprehensive course provides expertise in many pertinent areas for accelerating and enhancing your own wealth accumulation efforts, even if you are already wealthy. This third session, Discovering New Potential, Strategic Legal Planning, Enhancing Your Privacy and Security, builds on your exercise of your rights and privileges and develops your protection against privacy invasion. Legal and lawful. Occasionally, you will notice the term lawful, which is related to but distinct from the term legal. Notice the differences. Merriam-Webster defines legal as of or relating to law or lawyers, lawful, also statutory, and enforced in courts of law. And it defines lawful as permitted by law and rightful. Although some treat the terms as synonymous, what is legal is not necessarily lawful, and at the same time, what is unlawful is not necessarily illegal. How important is the difference? Understanding these distinctions makes possible understanding the differences between the various requirements of applicable law and the various standards of practice. In practice, tax collectors tend to demand tax money from taxpayers without any consideration of what the actual language of applicable law demands from taxpayers. When taxpayers pay tax money demanded by tax collectors, but not demanded by the actual language of applicable law, the collection of such tax is both legal and not illegal, particularly since the payment of such tax is generally considered to be on a voluntary basis. What is wrong with volunteering to pay taxes? When the actual language of applicable law does not require payment, but a taxpayer pays anyway out of ignorance of the actual language of the law, the taxpayer essentially makes a pledge to pay by filing a tax form and honors the pledge by paying the tax. Accordingly, the collection of such tax is both legal and not illegal, but it also amounts to legal extortion, that is, a constructive fraud by which tax collectors collect taxes out of ignorance of the actual language of the law, and taxpayers pay taxes out of ignorance of the actual language of the law. This makes the collection of such tax, as well as penalties and interest, unlawful, both since it is not pursuant to the requirements of the actual language of applicable law, and since it is non-refunded overpayment of tax, beyond the requirements of the actual language of applicable law. For federal tax collectors, this phenomenon constitutes what the Internal Revenue Code identifies as the crime of operating under color of law. Note that the IRC identifies this practice as a crime, such crime being any extortion or willful oppression under color of law, or knowingly demanding other or greater sums than are authorized by law, or receiving any fee, compensation, or reward, except as by law prescribed, for the performance of any duty. Refer again to the ebook, Appendix 3, the Internal Revenue Code. It is in such a case of insisting that the law says that income tax is due that tax professionals exceed their authority. Are tax professionals licensed with extra authority? It is true that a license authorizes the holder of the license to do something that is otherwise illegal, specifically against the law or even criminal, or unlawful, not permitted by law, with extra authority only in that he is licensed and others are not. Just as an adult has a license to drive, and a law enforcement professional has a license to kill, and a medical professional has a license to prescribe controlled substances, which licenses authorize the holders of such licenses to do things that are otherwise illegal, or at least unlawful. Tax collectors are, by virtue of their respective offices, licensed to collect taxes without regard for the requirements of the actual language of applicable law. IRS tax collectors may be issued badges with pseudonyms, false names, and such individuals enforce excessive taxation with impunity. That is, technically, they cannot be held accountable for exceeding their authority by knowingly demanding other or greater sums than are authorized by law, especially since, like their counterparts in society, from lowly IRS enrolled agent qualified tax preparers to credentialed CPAs, they are not required to know the basic facts of the actual language of applicable federal income tax laws and regulations. Convenience and diligence. In this capitalist market society, competition involves offering convenience as well as fair prices. Society is accordingly very convenience-oriented. The government in particular makes it convenient for you to provide benefits to individuals in the government and relinquish your own benefits, namely by waiving both your right to pay no more than only the correct amount of tax due under the law, or only the amount of tax legally due, and your privilege of lawfully arranging your affairs so that your taxes shall be as low as possible, and so that your wealth and income will be as high as possible. Take a tax-deferred retirement account as an example. For the convenience of saving a little money directly from your paycheck now and paying taxes on that money later, you must use that money precisely how and when required. You are charged tax penalties otherwise. And then you must pay taxes when you are retired, potentially at a higher tax rate, when you really need all of your money the most. The government does, however, permit you to be diligent, and you can still enjoy the same conveniences others enjoy without also waiving your constitutional lawful rights and privileges. Take a permanently risk-free, tax-free interest-bearing retirement account as an example. With a little diligence, you can use your excess interest and tax costs to fund such an account. Observe all three principles in combination for achieving financial prosperity, and watch your account value periodically double to the point of returning to you an annual six-figure tax-free interest income for the rest of your life. Such diligence also helps you beat the silent killer, inflation. Affecting even the most disciplined individual, inflation is the cancer that slowly but surely drains the life out of bank, savings, money market, and CD accounts, investments in government bonds, and even small retirement accounts of all kinds. However, properly funded, a permanently risk-free, tax-free, interest-bearing retirement account is able to grow well above the rate of inflation and provide a more than sufficient annual six-figure lifelong income.